Hey, girlfriends. Welcome to the Girl Talk podcast. I am so excited to introduce to you a new guest that we have today. This is my wonderful friend, Chandra, and her favorite color is purple.
Yes.
It looks beautiful on you.
Thank you.
So welcome to the Girl Talk community.
Thank you.
Could you introduce yourself? Who are you?
Sure. I am Chandra. I am the mother of a wonderful 9-year-old
Yes.
and the wife to Dave, who I've been married to for 17 years, but together for 21. Went to high school together, but didn't date in high school.
Really?
No, I dated all my friends.
Oh, of course.
But I got the prize at the end.
Who was interested first?
You know, that's a good question. We were set up on a blind date
Okay.
by a friend of mine, an ex-girlfriend of his.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then she finally was like, the night of, she was like, okay, fine, it's Dave. And then he told her, oh, by the way, it's Chandra. And we were both like, okay.
Might be okay.
So, yeah. And so it
Where'd
went
you
from
go?
there.
What was the first date?
This back in the day, which actually I don't even know if it's still down there. We went to Applebee's. Is it
Okay,
still over
yeah.
here on Broadway?
Yes, it is, yeah.
We went there. And then we went to a little dive bar in Crown Point called Fricky's. And we
Okay.
had a cocktail and met some friends. And I didn't go home with him. Like, he did not drive me home.
Yes.
I went home with my girlfriends because I was like, I don't know about that guy.
Right. And then who made the next step?
He did. And he he kept calling a couple times and I was like, And then there was like maybe a 3-week, 4-week where we didn't speak. And then I was like, oh no, wait,
I kind of missed that.
Yeah.
Aww.
So then I called him and then it went from there.
And how long were you like engaged, dating?
We dated, hold on, let me think. He proposed on New Year's Eve after we were together, for a year.
Okay.
And then we were engaged for a year and 9 months.
Wow, that's a long engagement.
It is.
Was there a reason for that?
Honestly, we just wanted to save money.
Okay.
So we paid for our wedding ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got married and went from there.
And you've been married, what did you say, how many years?
17.
17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get back into having a child in
Yeah.
just a minute. But what do you do currently now? What's your job?
Well, that's funny. I feel like I have a couple. Jack of all trades.
Yes.
Wear many hats.
And you're good at all of them.
Oh, well, thank you. There's always improvement. I've been in real estate for about, 2022, so 21 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I started when I was like 5.
Yes, that's for sure.
So, but no, honestly, I did start when I was 20.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Which this is not our topic today, but I'm curious, what had you interested in real estate?
Well, that's a great question. It's a fun story. It's part of who I am. I was working at an insurance company
Okay.
in Gary
Mm.
and not in a good area.
Gary?
And I got held up at gunpoint.
Oh, my.
And so I left. I decided that wasn't going to work for me anymore.
Can you please tell us how you got out of this situation? You can't just leave us hanging here.
Well,
I mean, you can, but please don't.
It was a little place. It was called Classic Insurance. I don't even think it's still around anymore.
Okay.
And honestly, what's funny is at one point they had an office in this building years ago.
Really?
Yes. Sorry, I think
You're
it was
good.
called Rogie Insurance at that point in time. But anyway, in this little office, and a guy came in and he demanded we open the safe, which it's an insurance company. We don't have that much cash. I mean, people did come and pay some of their, bills in cash, but
This had to be during the day?
yeah,
With a gun?
with a gun.
Okay.
Walked me and my girlfriend all the way to the back,
Oh, my goodness.
and said some ugly things and whatnot. And it was interesting.
Did you have training on if this happens
No.
or because it just didn't happen?
Honestly, I was a kid.
Yeah. Oh, my
I
goodness.
think I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he ended up running off because I think the phone rang in the office.
Okay.
And he left.
Because I know banks have that thing under there, but you didn't probably,
we did
right?
not.
To
This
call
was
911?
not no, we did not.
And you have cell phones in your pockets,
Honestly, I don't even think I had a cell phone.
right.
So yeah.
It wasn't
I think
common
I was,
at that
I think
time.
I was wearing a pager probably at that time. And that wasn't going to do me any good.
No. Oh, wow.
But what was interesting though, so that happened and it ended. And then my parents, because I was living at home at that point in time, they had their like insurance person who was coming over to the house one night to do something with their life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just there, so I was listening in. And she was like, I need an administrative assistant. Are you? And I was like, yes. Like, so I started working with her, and I went with her to some of her clients. Well, one of her clients was a Remax agent.
Interesting.
On Broadway here as well. And it was really interesting because I went in and I met them, and they were like, oh, well, we're hiring for a secretary. And Mary's like, well, hey, like, you're temporary here. And I'm like, okay.
Sure.
So I started working as a secretary. And what's cool, and you'll appreciate this being in real estate, this is when you did enter in the MLS, like on that machine where like you literally, it was old. It was bad. It was horrible. And like they had to come get keys from your office when they wanted to show something. They had to call, and then they'd have to be here between like and we'd check out the keys. So
and then submitting an offer was not just sending an email.
It was like carbon copies. There was
wow.
there was a pink and a yellow and a goldenrod and a white copy, and you had to write hard enough to press down. Yeah.
And and I remember stories where realtors would say you would go present your offer in person. Like you'd go sit in that realtor's office and like, this is why my buyer should buy this house. Yes. And now we're like, there's 20 and it's all in emails and wow. Anyways, back to.
So no, I had the pleasure of meeting Roseanne Quilling.
Oh, wow.
And so she was breaking from that Remax office to open up her own Remax All Stars in St. John. And I was like, I want to go with you. And I said, I want to be an agent because at the time I processed the checks when they came in from the closings.
Okay.
And she came in one day, it was a Friday, and she dropped off these checks on my desk and I processed them and turned them into the accountant. And I was like, she made $15,000 in one day. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. Yes. And so I was like, I want to learn from her. Mm-hmm. And so she took me on.
Wow.
And so she was my first like a big dose in real estate. Like I said, I started as a secretary and then went onto her team as a buyer agent.
Yeah.
And I learned so much, so very much.
And you probably learned $15,000 wasn't just made in that one day.
No. Right.
There's a lot that went into leading up to that day.
That it's always like super easy, and no, it's not.
Yes, no.
So, but yeah, and then it.
But we love it. We still do it. We love it.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't change it.
Absolutely. So then it went from there. So.
Yes. So today we really wanted to focus on how do we balance work and home life, and especially I really wanted you to share too about. You got married and you didn't have a child right away.
Correct.
And then when you do have a child, how precious that is, right? Like that's the miracle you've been waiting for. So then how do you go back and balance work with that? So walk us through your story here.
Oh, goodness. Well, yes, it took Dave and I 8 years to get pregnant.
Wow.
Through that, I was still in real estate, of course. Mm-hmm. I ended up leaving Roseanne's office. I had a closing with Jana Caudell.
Okay.
At the time, she was with Keller Williams, mm-hmm. and I brought the buyer. She had the seller, and I liked her.
Yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, I liked the transaction, I liked the closing, but after the closing is what kind of caught my attention because she wrote me a handwritten note.
That makes a big difference. I've had one realtor do that.
And she sent me movie tickets. And what's funny is I still have the note. I'm kind of a nerd like that. But I was like, that is so cool that she took the time out of her busy day to say thank you for bringing, you know what I mean? So I called her on a dare from my husband. And he's like, oh, just call her. See if she's hiring. See if she's taking on any more agents. And I was like, boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Back up. And so I was like, oh, no, you're not going to dare me. And I'm not going to do it. So I did it, and she called me back in like 5 minutes. It was like 7:00 at night. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm open to meeting with you. I'm at the office now. Do you want to come? And I was like, oh. I'm like, sure.
Wow.
And so met up with her, kind of went from there. So I transitioned over there, got married while I was on her team. And honestly, I love working so much that I didn't. And so thankfully, so did my husband.
Yeah.
So we just lived very crazy, busy lives. And,
yes.
We started to, we wanted to have a family, and we started. And as I'm diagnosed with endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is not fun.
No.
So I did have a little bit against me, but
it's painful.
It's horrible. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, like, I have good support on that. So Dave was always real supportive. Jana has been amazing because like she would know that like once a month I probably didn't come in to the office because I just needed to
take care of yourself.
Yep. Yeah. And So we did in vitro. We did our 2 inseminations. We did drugs, shots, and we switched a couple doctors throughout the process. And my last doctor was like, okay, like you're just kind of a hopeless cause. And so we found a new doctor because I didn't really like that.
I was going to say, how were you feeling in the midst of all that?
Not good.
Yeah.
It's hard too because like at that age, all of our friends were having kids. So it was very, it was tough.
Isolating, alone.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some feelings there.
Yeah. It was just like you wanted to be happy for your friends, but then in the same time, extremely sad. And we do have a good friend circle though. So like they were always right. And so, but it was tough. But you know what I have to say is that it allowed Dave and I our relationship to be even better. Like he is truly, honest to goodness, my bestest friend.
The support and that you had with each other, the understanding.
Yep. And then we ended up meeting a new doctor in Lafayette.
Okay.
And see, insurance doesn't cover this stuff. So it was kind of costly.
Yeah.
But when we met with this guy, he gave us his basically what he can do, his treatment plan. And he was successful. We went to him because he was successful with a cousin of mine who was going through the same thing, and it worked. So
is he around today?
He is.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. He toggles offices between Indy and Lafayette. And
would you be willing to share that if somebody reached out to you?
Absolutely.
If you're in a situation where you're interested for more information, we're going to tag Chandra. Tongue-tied on this in the show notes, but definitely we'll link so that you could connect with her and send her a message.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely. And that was 2011. It was January of 2011. And Dave and I drove home and we were kind of we were defeated.
Yeah.
Because we just, honestly, we didn't have any more money to spend on it, to be honest. So we and I hate saying this because to people that can't have children, this hurts what I'm going to say, and I know it because I was on that end, but it is part of the story. So I have to say it is we came home and we're like, we're not going to do anything for 2011. Like, let's revisit this in, later on next year. And then it kind of happened on its own. 8 months later, then I got pregnant, and yeah, it was a little scary. I was high risk to begin with because of the scenarios that I had.
Right.
And I was also high stress in this industry.
Yes.
So, and like I had said earlier, like we love working. So to slow down was foreign to me. And my doctor basically said, listen, you or your child is not going to, like one of you is not going to make it through.
Oh my goodness.
You need to basically disconnect.
How did your husband feel hearing that?
He freaked out. He was like, you need to leave your job. I don't care if we sell our house and we live in a cardboard box. We have waited way too long for this. And I did. I left real estate.
And how did you feel leaving?
I had mixed emotions. I'm not going to lie. I was so happy, but that has been such a huge part of my life that it was
kind of like that's who you are.
Yeah.
Your identity is wrapped up in that in a way.
Yes, absolutely. And so it was tough. And so I left. I left. I gave Jana my notice. Everybody was like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
And yeah.
And that's scary even looking to the future, because when you are in real estate, it's all about your past clients, referral base, getting your name out there, and then all of a sudden you just shut it down. What happens when you do have the baby? Will I ever go back to work? Will people ever come work with me again? And I can only imagine. Wow.
So now thankfully, because the timing was odd. I found out I was pregnant on September 11th.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I gave Jana my notice at the end of September. I gave her a month. So my last day was Halloween. And then I just, I kind of went home and started to, in a sense, like detox. You know what I mean? Because that's a big change. Like you're hustling every day and then you go home and you're like, now what?
What do we do? Right.
Thankfully, though, Chicago Title called and they wanted to hire me. And I was like, you do know I'm pregnant, right? And they're like, yeah, we want you to come over and help with the processing system we have. And I was like, well, okay, as long as you remember that I'm pregnant and I will be leaving, for that. And they were like, yeah, no problem. So so I ended up starting in January at Chicago Title. And then I was, my pregnancy was going fine.
Is there less stress there?
You know what?
Different.
It's a different stress. And we'll kind of, I guess, get to that. You'll probably get that out of me from the questions you're going to ask. But it was interesting because they were just, it was completely, it was 9 to 5. And like, we're not 9 to 5.
Okay.
So like at 5, like they're like, okay, you go home now. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, but I'm not done. And like, and they're like, no, you go home. And I'm like, I'm not used to this going home thing.
So it could be stressful, but it would only be 9 to 5.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It was for a minute or two. And then Kristen ended up being 2 months early. So then it kind of got a little, and she was in an emergency C-section because they had found that she had stopped growing.
Wow.
And I was going twice a week for appointments and ultrasounds and
Sure.
checkups and everything. And and then, they were like, okay. And like Chicago Title was so good with it because I'd be like, every time I'd go to an appointment, I never knew if they'd let me go home because of what they may find. So
sure, you could be on bed rest immediately.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, but they were so good. And then the one day, they're like, okay, nope, you don't get to go home. Like, this is it. And so, went into surgery and out came this little 4.1 pounder who was our gift. And honest to goodness is a gift. Like when somebody says you don't get to have a baby, then your whole mind, you just, and you'd have to know her to appreciate that, like, she truly is a gift. She's an old soul locked up in a little body, and she is just,
that's beautiful.
She had just a fleet of people praying for her.
Sure.
And my aunt is a nun, okay? And she's like the matriarch of her family. I love her to pieces. And she had a friend nun that was just praying for Kristen the whole time I was pregnant, and even after I was born, or after she was born. And she would ask my aunt, she'd be like, can you give me pictures of the baby and stuff? And so my aunt's showing her pictures, and she had like this, my aunt didn't live in the convent anymore, but this nun was elderly and she lived in the convent. That's like having a dorm room.
Yes.
She decorated it with like all Kristen's pictures, and she has prayed for her to the point where, like, when she did pass, like, and my aunt had to do her eulogy, like, Kristen was referenced. Like, she had a following of people. Like, that's how much of a gift she was. And I don't mean to be like braggadocious about it, but it's just
the truth.
Yeah. Like,
that's
it's just
beautiful.
Anyway, she's a gift.
How long was she in the hospital? Did you have to leave her and you went home? Yeah.
That was not good.
Okay.
I know. And that's the thing, like, all my girlfriends had babies, and nobody ever talks about this thing called postpartum. They all think it's like, and I just had no idea because nobody had ever like really talked about it. And when you go home from the hospital without a baby, that messes with you. Yeah. Like, I was like, what? And I couldn't drive. So Dave went back to work. So I'd have to wait till he got home from work, and then we would drive up and see her. But she was there honestly, we were lucky. She was there only 3 weeks.
That's a long time, though.
It is. But you know what, though? But her little NICU neighbor in there was in there for like months, like 6 months. And when we left, she was still there. And so I was like, oh, I'll take my 3 weeks. Because that's tough. And
that you referenced postpartum. We have had, like, my best friend's been on the show before to talk about postpartum. And she did take her babies home. But even am I going to get in a car accident? And just very fearful for their life. Mm-hmm. So it is a very real. Oh, yeah. Real thing. Well, and like, to be completely honest too, like, Dave and I had all those years together and alone. When we did bring her home, I was kind of like, this little girl's cramping my style. Sure. And I mean that with the utmost love, but it was a life. She just, like, there's no more like spontaneous just going out. No, yes. We're bundling up this little 4-pounder that So I mean, like, it took a minute in a lot of ways. Yes, I just went out with another friend and I asked her the same thing. She was not able to have a baby for a while, several years. So she finally had her miracle baby, and I asked her the same thing, how's it going? And she said, it's an adjustment. She said, there's no more just like, hey, let's go to the movies. It's 8:00 at night. It's like, oh, wait, they need to go to bed, or we have to take them, or we have to find a sitter, or there's no just like, let's go grab dinner. It does change in a beautiful way, though. Absolutely. It's something that you really desired. So, yes. Wow. And how old is your daughter now? She's 9. She'll be 10 in April. Wow. So, yeah. And from what I've heard, she makes quite the impact. She's like a leader. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it. She just got her Student of the Month for responsibility. And I'll tell you, like, she is. She's an interesting person. Very empathetic. Picks up on things sometimes before I do. What do you love most about her? Like, what's one thing that sticks out that just... I mean, her heart is huge. She, like I said, she's compassionate. Yeah. Like, and it's interesting because my mom,
My mom is a hospice nurse who also has just been recently diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
And Kristen, thank you, is very like, where like when my mom will get her off the bus and she's going through chemo and she'll get her off the bus and she'll make it to our couch and then she kind of has to take a nap.
Sure.
Where Kristen, and she's been like this all her life, but she notices that. So like, instead of bugging her, hey, can I have a snack? Hey, I want to do this. She just like, lets Grammy nap and goes and does her thing.
Kids are
because
amazing.
She just senses like whatever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and she's got a big heart. I think like she's smart. Like she knows a whole lot more than me, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yes. And then it's that I can't wait to see what happens when you become an adult.
I know, like, what are you going to do in the world?
She's going to change it.
Well, somebody once told me that.
It's going to be a world changer. I love it. Okay. Now I want to get into balancing that work life and home, because you did have you were for a while without any children. So how did you balance work and home then? And then even when you did, and now presently have a family, how do you do this?
Well, I think first off, what's the most important in my opinion is that Dave and I have to be super strong. It's Dave and I first. I love that little kid, but Dave and I are first and she's second. And I think that's important. Yeah. Because without being a strong unit, we can't parent the way that we want to parent. Yes. So even before she was born, him and I always had a date night. It was a different type of date night because we had date night every night, if you think about it. Yes. And then when she was born, the date nights were definitely more, they were limited, but we just built each other in first. So that definitely helps with the balance side of it. And in regards to like work, because this business doesn't shut down. No, it doesn't. Part of it, I'm blessed in the sense of who I'm surrounded with on our team, because they know that, it's family first. And so like if they're texting or calling or need something and like it's between like 5 and 7, I kind of go off the grid and they know it and they're okay. Everybody's okay with it. They figure it out or they wait patiently till Kristen's in bed and I can call. Yeah. So I think though that I'm lucky because it's being surrounded by people that support you in that. So it's a village. Finding a team. Yeah. Finding the team. It takes a village. But in the same breath, it's hard. It's hard to, weigh it all out in your brain. Like, okay, and I have to time block. This is where it's so funny. We were just talking a little earlier about personalities. Yes. And and that's a whole nother probably show in itself. Yeah. But what I am somewhat decent at, probably not as good as some, but I do time block. Okay. And so from these, I have a morning routine and I need that in order to get my mind right, in order to achieve the balance that I need, if that makes sense. And I do it, all throughout the day. So I have a morning routine, an afternoon routine, an evening routine, and, and then it starts again. And same thing on the weekends. But that for me works to help give me that.
I'm just going to say like amen to that, because even, with my real estate business, I learned real quick that it's easy to jump into checking those emails and calling those clients back from the moment you get out of bed in the morning. But
it's a vicious circle.
But don't do it. Right. Because when you're in your routine and you take your time to get yourself mentally where you should be for the day, everything else is going to go a lot smoother. But when you try to just do it all on your own and in your own strength, might I add, it doesn't work. Yeah. So wait and get your routine down. Talk to your Heavenly Father. What is the vision for today? And then go at it. And don't do it in your strength.
And have you found that like it took me a long time to realize that?
Oh yes. And there's still a reminding myself, because there's still days where I need to answer this call right now. No, I don't. Because it's not 9:00 and I didn't do what I'm supposed to do yet in the morning to prepare myself. So no, to make that call right now would not be the wisest decision.
Yeah. But it is because like I always say, like when I talk to the team at work, I'm always like, oh, that was my first tour when I talk about real estate, as far as the first time I was in it. Sure. And then the Chicago title and now that I'm back. But what I learned from the first tour and from even Chicago title is that I created all my own monsters. Yes. I love my clients at CT, don't get me wrong. I'll say but they were like, they expected because I gave it to them. And I was like, absolutely, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Yes. And I was like, oh, I should have made some time for myself. And then maybe I wouldn't be so stressed out.
That's so huge. And especially with cell phones, because your cell phone is right here all the time, right here in your hand. And I know like I could be in a conversation with someone face to face, but if a client starts calling, oh, excuse me, I need to take this. Yep. But do I?
Nope.
Can I return that phone call?
Yep.
And is the conversation that I'm in person just as important as the need that this client has? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's where it's a lot of learning to set the boundaries,
Yeah.
and to call a client back an hour or two is not horrible.
Mm-mm.
Now, if you're waiting 2 days, yes, I do think that
Right.
might be a problem. You might need some help to return your calls then. But no, it's not.
It's just,
you're not there all the time for them.
No. And it's about being, and this is what I tell Kristen, it's about being present in the moment.
Yes.
That's all. Like, just be present with where you're at. Don't let your mind wander. And if you find your mind wandering, bring it back.
Yes.
Like, just be present with who you're at, because especially in this current world that we're in,
Yeah.
and even COVID and health issues, you just don't know how long you have with people.
Yeah, I talked a lot about that over the Christmas break, actually, with my family. We had, I don't know if you've ever seen those tabletop conversations.
No.
It's like you can order them on Amazon, and it's like these little cards that come, they're like a square, and you can take one out. And it's like thought-provoking questions.
Oh,
Some of them are
yes.
funny, some of them are really good. But one of them was like, where do you spend the most time in the past, present, or future? And as soon as I read it, I thought, oh my goodness.
Oh.
What a convicting thought, right?
Yes.
Like, how much time am I, my past, or I wish I would have done that different, or even when we leave a conversation, what does that person think of me? I said this and I shouldn't have. Well, then I'm not living in the present. And then if I'm
Right.
so worried about what's going to happen tomorrow and my schedule for tomorrow, that I still missed all of today. So it's so,
Wow.
right? It was a powerful thought that I'm still convicted by of, am I right here in this moment?
Mhm.
Or am I worried about, I need to do this and this and this and this? So
I love that.
It was a good thought just from a little tabletop conversation.
Yeah.
But I agree, living in the moment and setting those boundaries. And I like what you said. You created your own monsters.
Mhm.
I learned, like, one little trick that I learned in real estate was, instead of, hey, yeah, you want to see that house? What time works for you on Saturday? Well, then I would be upset if they suggested 5:00 in the evening.
Right.
So it's,
Yep.
no, you set the boundaries. Like, hey, I've got
Mhm.
time between 1 and 3 on Saturday. Which hour works best for
Yep,
you?
exactly.
And then you're staying in control of that.
Mhm.
So, wow. And I'm sure that's the same for family. Like, no, I
Oh,
blocked this time out right now for my family, that 5 to 7.
And that's like, I do like what I call a brain dump for the
Mhm.
month. Like, I just did it for March.
Okay.
And I put in all the family stuff first, and then I build the other around.
I love that, because family is first. And I love that you're keeping Dave up there first, actually.
Oh,
because
yeah.
if we're not doing okay,
Yep.
then nobody's doing
Well,
okay.
I think, we've seen our fair share of, like, divorce and friends, and you know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't,
And it's in any industry, but I do feel like it's very
Oh.
prevalent in real estate.
Yeah, real estate, loan, like lending and title.
Yes.
We just, every part of our industry runs crazy,
Yeah.
like we do sometimes.
That's sad. That's hard. I was going to say, how do you make time for yourself and your loved ones? But I think you kind of just answered it. You just brain dump first
Mm-hmm.
and put that in there. I like that.
Yeah. And it took me a long time when I left real estate the first time and went to Chicago Title. I felt like it took me years, in a sense, to come off of that, like, high,
Yes.
of real estate and the constant. And by the time, because I was at Chicago Title for 7 years, by the time I kind of came out of that and was like, okay, like, I'm kind of, adjusting to the 9 to 5 per se.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left it
Yes.
to go back in.
Why?
It's like totally, like, every time I have to, like, just almost like detox, and then, like, set my expectations and my boundaries again.
How do you, and I think this would apply for anyone in a job, especially a mom, how do you keep yourself from feeling guilty if you have to say no to work because maybe you planned a family vacation that weekend or a day at the movies? How do you stay away from that guilt?
Well, in all honesty,
It's there.
it is.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it's gotten better, though. And I mean, just to be completely, like, open and vulnerable, I've hired a therapist.
Yeah.
And I've only, and I don't talk to him much. It's not like a scheduled event. It's like when I'm feeling
When
like
you
I
need
may
it.
need a little bit of help navigating something, I call. And he said some things to me, and I'm just like, okay, like, this, again, life is short. I think that's kind of what it all comes down to, is life is short. And like you said, if a customer can't understand, or a team member can't understand that I need to do this for my family, then
We have to understand
It
that
is
God
what
is
it
bigger
is.
than that, and life is bigger
Yes.
than that. But I noticed real quick in real estate, the guilt was there on either side. So whether I went and did the work obligation, man, was there a lot of guilt that I was missing out on my family, or I canceled these family plans and I wasn't there because they're so important to me.
And you'll never get them back.
Right. And then, but there's the guilt on the other side when you tell the family, look, I'm really sorry. You know, especially with as fast as houses sell, you know, like it could be your dream house. And there's other ways you can facilitate someone else helping show the house. But
I was going to say, then you call me.
yes.
So you go do your family thing and I'll go show the house for you.
And I like that. That goes back to what you said, is the team around you.
Yeah.
You know, the team that supports each other. It does take a lot of people.
And that's, you know, probably another conversation, but that's what I love about finding like-minded people, because it doesn't matter that we're not on the same real estate team, but I will help you with whatever you need. That's just called being a good human.
Yeah, which we are talking about that next.
Oh, yes.
So stay tuned for the next podcast. We're talking about community over competition. Yes, we'll get there. Don't worry. I just wanted to ask, let me see if I had anything else. Outsourcing it, you talked about that. But I thought it was important to recommend to people, like, do what you enjoy and what you know you're good at, where you feel fulfilled, do that. And then hire somebody to do the rest.
Correct.
You know, like cleaning the house, that's not something I enjoy. I can outsource that. But what I do enjoy is like getting down with people to find that dream house and helping them grow their family into that next stage of life. So I don't know if you had any tips to add there, but the outsourcing I think is important.
Yeah, and well, I think you said it perfectly. And especially if you don't like it and you're not strong at it, why try to, you know, continue being strong at it if it's not worth your time?
Right.
And that's like even with hiring administratively on our team, like I'm not going to put somebody that's going to stress them out to do that job and that job just because I like them.
Yes.
And that's a big thing too, is that you don't want to always hire, like on the hiring side, I don't want to hire people that are like me. Right. Just because I like them, but like more than likely they're not going to serve their purpose.
Their purpose, right. And there are some people who love cleaning, you know, like that is not me. But there are some people. Yeah. And then I would mention one more thing is like accept imperfection.
Yes.
Because and I learned that myself, but to hold yourself to this standard up here, to be the best at everything, it's not possible. You know what though, don't you? It's funny too, because like I feel like as we age, that it just becomes easier. I don't know if it's like, I just feel like when, you know, and I think that's part of it is because I've been in the real estate for 22 or 21 years. Yeah. You think about it. I mean, I'm 43, right? So, I mean, like it's just different, I think, as you learn to let those things go. But I think some of it happens when you get older. Yeah, you go from experience. Yeah. It's hard. It's still hard every day. If you could leave us with one tip about this home and work balance, what is one statement that you would like to remind us of? I'll give you a minute to think about it. But this has been good chatting with you about this. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. I mean, I appreciate it. It's powerful. Your testimony is. It'll help a lot. I thank you for inviting me. And I guess I would say, like, you gotta, it sounds, I guess, kind of silly, but you gotta do you first. You know, you've gotta be no, that does not sound silly. That's and powerful. You have to have this in check before you can expect to have everything else in check. And that in my life has been, and it still is very much a work in progress. Yeah. So. Ooh, that's good. Yeah. So girlfriends, we're going to leave you with that. Get yourself in check. Yes. In a nice way. It is important. Take the time for yourself and set those boundaries, and that'll help you be successful. So we will catch you guys on the next Girl Talk with Chandra on community versus competition. But again, we're going to tag her in the show notes. So if you guys have any questions at all, real estate wise, personal life wise, she's a wonderful friend if you need a friend. So reach out and we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you.